What's going on, guys? It's Red Bull Tanker, and welcome back to HBG's The Korean War. This is now turn 6, so let's get going. Alright, North Korea. North Korea collected, at the beginning of the turn, 38 IPC, plus the 3 that they saved, plus the 3 they saved from last turn. They had 41. Purchases, they paid off the 10 damage to the Seoul factory that the Allies had inflicted on it. Also in Seoul, they bought 3 infantry, 2 artillery, 2 AAA, and 4 supplies. While up in Pyongyang, they dropped 3 supplies and they saved 3 IP. I believe they saved 3 IPC, but yes, they did. So one second, I need to make a note of that. Yes. And then they saved 3 IPC. The North Koreans did not conduct any combat this turn, just non-combat. Getting this group reinforced from Yanggu, moving forces from Haeju down to Pyongyang, getting supplies over to these forces in Wonsan, or is it Wonsan? Yes, Wonsan, so that way these guys can get moved. And then that was their turn. Nothing too crazy this turn. Like I said, there's still Airsoft Commando is still rebuilding his forces after the bloody street fighting that had occurred in Seoul last turn. Going over this turn, China was able to make some purchases. At the beginning of the turn, they collected 35 IPC. They opted to buy 3 fighters and save 5 IPC. Down to South Korea. At the beginning of the turn, South Korea collected 20 IPC. They bought 2 supplies in Busan and 6 infantry. South Korea did not conduct any combat this turn, just non-combat, which again involved moving forces from Pohang to Yongandong. The South Koreans have built up their army pretty well there now. They have, 14 infantry and an artillery sitting in Angdong. They moved this unit from Cheongju up into Sangju. I believe that happened this turn. Or that might have happened last turn, and now I'm just going over another turn again. And then, yeah, that was it for their non-combats. The United States, over there in Busan. Alright, so the United States at the beginning of the turn collected 50 IPC plus the 9 they saved from last turn. So they had 59 to spend. They did spend all of it this turn. So I'll just come to the reinforcement chart right away because they're already down. So the U.S. bought 2 infantry of the 7th Infantry Division. They bought supporting artillery, another armor regiment for the 5th Armored Division, 2 transports, a fighter, and they are sending over a B-29 strategic bomber group. Combat. Alright, the B-29 in Busan came and did another bombing raid on Seoul. It survived the AAA fire and scored 6 damage. Non-combat. On the non-combat side, they moved more of their fighters from Busan into Sangju. They moved this mech out of Busan into, what is that called? Weiguang. Here in Busan, the remainder of the 25th Infantry Division and the 1st Armor have officially, the 1st U.S. Ground Forces have now reached Korea after 6 turns, as well as two fighters. The 2 transports that delivered them just got added to the transport pool here in C-Zone 5. And then, like I said, then just like normal, all the units moved forward on the supply track. So the 2nd Infantry Division and its supporting units will be hitting the beaches at Busan soon. We got that other group with the 2nd Infantry Division. We have the 1st Marine Division coming up behind them. The 3rd Infantry Division and 5th Armored Division are moving in. And then, like I said, we dropped the 7th Infantry Division and its supporting elements. All right, the UN. All right, the UN had started with 20 IPC plus 3 they saved from last turn. They end up purchasing an infantry, a tank, a transport, and then they bought 3 supplies for Gwangju. Combat. The strategic bomber from Gwangju did a bombing run up here at the factory in Pyongyang. They were able to brave the AAA fire. Unfortunately, the Royal Australian pilots, I don't know what was going on. They didn't hit, or their bombardiers. Someone screwed up there. They were only able to damage the factory for 3 IPC. And one thing that I am playing with this game, there's a maximum of 10 damage on all the factories here in Pyongyang, Seoul, Busan, and then in the China territories. All of them have a maximum of 10 damage, and then as soon as they receive 1 damaged, they cannot be built on. So let's see, next turn, Airsoft Commando is going to have to spend 9 IPC to get the 2 factories up and running again. Let's see, non-combats for the UN. Obviously, they brought their bomber back. The first UN reinforcements have reached Korea in Gwangju. Their infantry and armor have arrived. Their supply truck here in Jeongju helped move supplies up to Sangju to get to help reinforce the supplies for the U.S. 24th and U.S. 25th Infantry Divisions and their supporting aircraft. And then, as always, the transport that brought the reinforcements is just added to the transport pool there. The UN is continuing to move its forces across the board. They definitely have some units coming in next turn. Infantry, artillery, 2 fighters, another transport. That South Korean artillery is getting closer. But really, it's kind of, I think it's more advantageous for the South Koreans to just keep pumping out infantry and, for the South Koreans to just keep pumping out infantry in Busan and just trying to race it north as quick as possible. All right, well, that is it for turn 6. I think won't do it now. It'll be a separate video, probably coming out either Tuesday or Wednesday, because Airsoft Commando wants to be here for it. We are going to do a mid-game. Review. Just kind of get the first thoughts on how we like the game, how it's going, all that kind of stuff. And then we will push on with the game from there. And then once we reach the conclusion of the game, then there'll obviously be there'll be one final video for our final thoughts on the game. So that is it for now. And so be on the lookout for that next video on Tuesday or Wednesday, and then from there we'll kick right on to turn 7, which turn 7 now brings us into 1952. All right, so that's it for now, guys. So until next time, as always, take care.